What is up, everybody? Isaac here with Civil Engineering Academy. Thanks for tuning in, liking, subscribing. All of that good stuff helps us go a long way in this world of civil engineering, which is a pretty small niche, but glad you found us. So thanks for being here. Obviously, I'm your host, Isaac. I'm with Civil Engineering Academy, and we help people pass their FE, their PE, and help them to become a professional engineer and everything in between. But today, I bring an awesome guest on. His name is Bill Bollman. He is from North Carolina, and he actually works as a roadway production manager, but he started his journey as a CAD technician and worked his way up to being able to pass his PE exam. Now, in North Carolina, after so many years of experience, and Bill has like 30 years of experience, he was able to get his FE waived and was able to take the PE exam, but he didn't have like the normal course route of graduating with a civil engineering degree and having that background to be able to pass his PE exam in transportation. So he had to overcome quite a few hurdles in order to get this exam done. He used Civil Engineering Academy's resources and able to help him pass his exam. So I wanted to bring him on the show and talk about his experience. I think there are a lot of people out there that maybe be wondering, can I become a professional engineer, even though I don't have a civil engineering degree per se? And there is a route for you. So Bill shares what his route is and really what this PE is going to do for him for the rest of his career and the doors that it will open for him. So if you are interested in this and you're taking your PE exam soon, I'm sure there's some information in here that was relatable to you. If anything, his journey is very inspiring. So I'm going to shut up. Let me get to my interview with Bill. I think you're really going to enjoy this, and we'll see you inside. All right, we're rocking and rolling. Bill, thanks for joining me today on the Civil Engineering Academy podcast. I appreciate you doing this with me.
Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, this is awesome. So first of all, congratulations on passing your PE exam. That's a huge milestone, and it's nice to feel the weight of that off of your shoulders, I am sure.
It is. It's been a good almost week getting the results.
Well, we're going to get into all the details of that and how you prepared and everything, but I usually like to kick these off because our audience doesn't maybe know who you are. So why don't you give us a little background in terms of what you do and how did you end up getting into this field and why did you end up taking the exam? Kind of what's your backstory?
I'm Bill Bollman. I live just outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. I started in the business. I graduated with an associate's degree of civil CAD technology. So when I started, believe it or not, I've been doing this for over 30 years now. I started off probably a different path than most. I started off as a CAD tech. And then after 10 years, my boss said, hey, I'd really like to see if you could do some design work. So I started doing design work. And then over the years, I went from being, a designer to a senior designer to now I'm a roadway production manager, which means I train the roadway staff here. And a lot of them, they come right out of school. We get a lot of interns. So I'm able to, train them up and get them where we need them doing roadway. I guess the different thing is in North Carolina, if you've got over 20 years experience, they'll go ahead and grandfather you in and waive the FE, and then you get an opportunity to take the PE exam.
Wow, that's huge.
And that's how I kind of fell into taking the PE. But the real reason is I've trained a bunch of young engineers that have become like head of roadway departments. And I've had some really good ones, it isn't all me, of course, they worked hard and have gotten where they are and have gotten their PEs. And I said, man, if they've done it, you know what I mean? I probably have a shot if I'm able to train them. And actually, a lot of them have actually contacted me and said, hey, I think you should go for it, and that was nice to see, some of the people that I trained come back and, motivate me to do it. So that was nice.
That is awesome. I mean, that's an awesome story. And I think there's probably a lot of people don't know that FE can even be waived, because if you go to if you go to the websites, NCES, a lot of states, like that's the requirement, right? You got to get the FE done before the PE. So that's really neat that you were able to get that waived. I'm sure that was a relief and probably got you set up to start studying for the PE.
It was huge. It did help a lot.
That's awesome. So, you took transportation as your depth section of choice. You're working in that field, but I imagine it was difficult to wrap your head around like the specs. Like, how did you even get going into this study pattern, knowing that like your college education didn't maybe hit on all these topics, but maybe you did them at work. So maybe how did you fill those gaps?
Well, the one advantage that I had is, I do roadway every day, even in the early stages. I was, the first thing I started in this business was just doing quantities, learning, you know what I mean, curb and gutter, learning how to do supers, which, that's part of the test, learning how to do horizontal curves, learning how to do vertical curves. So I had a good bit of the transportation already built in there with my everyday workflow. um, the tough part was, and just so people know, I took it one other time and was not successful. And when it came back, as I shared my results with you, I was very weak in hydraulics and geotech. And for I could have done better in project management, but this second time, I made a very concerted effort to go after those pretty hard. And they
What was my advice when we chatted?
you told me to spend more time on the weak stuff because my roadway and transportation stuff is about where it needed to be. And you did 100%. I cannot
Awesome.
argue that. Well, and to be honest, you had a gentleman on that you interviewed from Louisiana named Wade. And he gave a lot of very good study tips that really helped me as far as like time management and just, how he used the different resources. And I think I probably owe him a huge congratulations, which is kind of a payback because I watched his video and hoping somebody can watch mine and get something out of it.
Oh, it's so surprising the reach that this has, and this is why I love having people that have used our material in any way, shape, or form to come on and kind of share your exam experience, like Wade, and now you get to help kind of pass it on and share your knowledge with others. So that's really cool. I'm glad,
Yeah.
at least I'm glad someone was listening to a podcast episode.
You got one.
That's awesome. All right, let's get into this a little bit. So, could you describe to us maybe what was your study method? What was the study routine like for you? How long did it take you to prepare for the exam?
So after I didn't do as well last time, I mean, I was like probably maybe if I had to guess 6 questions away from passing last time. But what I did is I felt like I put enough in studying after hearing Wade and kind of, what you gave me back as an analysis of what I could do. I figured that I probably wasn't putting as much as I thought I should. So I went with a routine where I was getting into work at 6:30 in the morning and I studied from 6:30 to 8:30 a.m. And then obviously I did my work day. Then I'd go home and have dinner with the family. Then I'd do 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. every day, Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends, I would do from 7 in the morning till 1 a.m. And I did that every Saturday and Sunday. And I did that religiously for 16 weeks. And it paid big benefits, but I put in a lot of time.
Yeah, do you feel like the time that you put into it correlated with like your background and like the your college background or the material you were studying at all, or do you feel like I needed to study more because I know there's topics here that I need to really hit that I have no clue about, or do you feel like that was kind of just the standard study path?
I think for me, it was my lack of the education and those certain topics for sure. That's why I had to spend more time, with those. I still spent time, going over transportation, but I had to do so much more when it came to like geotech and pavement, geotech and materials, the whole hydro. I mean, I got to be honest, I probably did the Mann equation 5 million times. But,
You can recite it now, I bet.
open, no, they're everything. But yeah, I think I need it because just I lack those areas. But the more I would do them, I would, take 20 hydro questions, and I at first I didn't time myself, but after a while, at first I was getting, maybe 10 out of 20. And then I'd keep grinding and throw more in the mix that I was getting 15 out of 20. And then once I got to, where I was getting 17 to 18, I'm like, all right, I'm now finally where I need to be. And I hate to say it, it probably took me 11 to 12 weeks to get to that point, but put in
That's
the work.
okay.
Yeah, put in the work and and seeing that, I was getting that average I needed to be able to pass was where I knew I was in the right ballpark.
That's amazing. I mean, that sounds like there's, I mean, multiple hurdles that you kind of had to get over. That's so impressive. It sounds like you had really good support at home. What was that like, and what advice would you give to other people that either don't have it or maybe they do? But what was that conversation like with a spouse and such as you started this journey?
Well, I just told her, I said, we're gonna have to pay the price, now, in the interim, but in the end, it's gonna pay big dividends. Doors will open once I get that PE and make a big difference in the career. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I probably have at least another 15. You know, I'm not gonna say I never want to retire, but I could see myself doing this in 15 years because I love what I do.
Yeah, that's great.
But my wife was very supportive. She was sorry. We got the automated lights at night at the office. No, she was very supportive and just kind of had a lot of questions about, what would our home life look? And one thing we did do that was big is since we're empty nesters, every Friday we go out on a date night, just my wife and me. We go out for dinner and kind of catch up on the week and, things of that nature. So we did make that a routine. I think that helped because she knew for that period of time she was going to have my full attention. And I think that made a big difference. Throughout the week though, we had a couple shows that we like to watch where I'd carve out an hour, to watch those shows. And I think she appreciated that. She was my biggest cheerleader, and my daughter, who still lives with us, but she's of age, college age. So
Yeah.
she was always very supportive and kind of helped me with some chores, taking care of the dog when I had to. Sometimes I'd come to the office, just to kind of on the weekend because it was really quiet.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Study spot. You got a good.
Yeah, that was my study spot. Yep. Even in the mornings, they come in and go, "What'd you study today?" I'm like, "I know." I'm like, "It's work time. I don't want to talk about studying."
So I'm curious, you took the exam twice, but that first time when you got a fail, how did you process that? How did your spouse process that? Like, what was that like?
I think for her, she felt like I would get it the first time just because of the amount of hours I put in. Probably to her, she was probably, when I told her I had to take it the second time, she was probably like, "Oh, okay." But I said, "And I'm probably gonna have to study more than I did the last time." So
Like, no.
she was definitely like, "Oh, like, okay, well, this is what you got to do." She's always been supportive no matter what I do, career wise. So that, I've been lucky to have a great spouse like that. So.
Well, I think it's a key point for people preparing for their PE, no matter what stage you are in your life, you got to find some support in some way. Um, whether it's, through a course or your spouse or others going kind of through the same boat, coworkers. That's all good stuff. Did you feel like there was pressure at work to get this done, or do you feel like they were like just more supportive of it? Some people feel this tremendous amount of pressure at work. I'm just curious on your end.
When I didn't pass it the last time, I told my boss and he said, "I'm going to be honest with you. Even if you don't pass it, it's no big deal." He said, "You really don't have to have it because I'm so far along in my career, if I didn't, I didn't." But, everybody was supportive. I got lucky enough that one of the girls that I trained up, she took it 3 weeks before I did. And she was very supportive of, me taking it again. She gave me a lot of examples of, how her test was. So that was a huge advantage for me. And she did give me the confidence. Be confident when you go in there. And she was very,
That's right.
and it's kind of funny because she's very quiet. So
Yeah, and I don't know if we talked about that, but like a huge part of the exam is knowing that you put in the work, right? So when you do go in the exam, trust that you put in the work, trust that you've got a confidence level there that you can do this. What I've seen is that when people do repeat the exam, they can get pretty sour towards the NCES, and these questions aren't lifelike, and they're just trying to trick me, and everything's out to get you in a trap, and it's like you've already lost the battle if we're thinking that way.
right.
So,
It's part of the process, and everybody that came before me had to do the same thing. Yeah. in the day of, when you get to, like a week before the test, there's really not much more you can do. You've got to be prepared at that point to take it. And, last time, I will say, when I took the test, they hit me with a couple questions I never saw. And I froze. I did not. This time around, they hit me with a couple. I'm like, all right, we're gonna go through. You did yours. I did the low hanging fruit, medium, and then I went to, the ones I knew would take me more than 6 minutes. And I didn't flinch at those. I counted and I figured I was probably at about 56 right at one point. So I started, then you have, the ones that you
Where you need to be.
right. Yeah, yeah. I knew I was in a good spot, better than I probably was last time. And I was pretty close last time. So, you just get in there and you keep fighting. And, I remember for a fact I had probably 10 left. And I luckily said, this time around, I've got about 2 hours. I can go through this thing. And I dug around and I know that for sure those 10 I didn't know, I got at least 5 of them. And a lot of that is because I did your 100 conceptual questions, and 7 of those were conceptual questions. But when you get that, when you get something like that, and you have 100 questions like that, and you're able to just work them, and learn kind of where these references and where things are hiding, because those conceptual questions are always hidden, like they're in the most hard to find places, and you just find it, and you're like, I've been through this area probably 100 times, and I'm just noticing this for the first time.
Let's
You know what I'm talking about.
yeah, yeah. Well, let's back up on that. So, you used some of our material, Civil Engineering Academy. How did you discover us in the first place?
Well, actually, I went ahead and looked it up when I first decided I was going to do this, and I looked for courses for civil transportation, and yours was the first to come up on Google. So, yep, I looked it up and went through, and after the last, I kind of went after it, and went and got some of your resources. I got your practice exam for the transportation. I got the 100 conceptual questions. You have a lot of good free resources. You're get on YouTube and you can get, the transportation. And actually, I'd say your hydraulics on YouTube, your practice questions really helped me a lot. Give me, number one, variety. Number two, they kind of step you through them, how to do them all. And that was really good for me. But I will say this, your practice exam, I'd say there's probably 3 or 4 questions on the test that was almost word for word from your test.
Pretty close, huh?
Oh, and your test was lifelike to what I took. And that built confidence. So
That's good. We definitely try to make it as realistic as possible. The real value in studying a lot, is trying to take practice exams and gauge how you're doing. So, how did you approach those as you took practice exams? What advice would you give to people trying to prepare for this?
the big one that I did is when I first began, I just took a practice exam right out the boat. When I took my second time, just to kind of see where I was at, because I still had a lot of knowledge from studying the first time. When I got a 55%, it kind of humbled me a little bit because I thought I would have done a little better. But I took about a month and a half off in between. When I didn't pass it. So then what I would do is about every 2 weeks from that 16-week out, I would take a practice exam till I got about 8 weeks out. When I got 8 weeks out, then I started for probably 4 weeks. I started doing every Saturday, Sunday, a 4-hour exam to see where my time was. And then when I got 4 weeks out, then I started to do a 4-hour Saturday. During the morning, I'd go for like an hour walk. Then I do a 4-1 after that, just to get myself ready. Because one of my big problems the first time was time. I believe it took me almost 5 hours and 15 minutes to get through the first 45 questions. And that was a huge problem. It made me really rush for the second part. So from your advice, and you had it and you sent it in the email, I can show everybody, you told me work on these areas and go ahead and make sure you're working on time. You've got to take practice exams because, that's going to make you battle tested for, when you do take the exam. So like I said, when I got 16 weeks out, I would do 1 exam. And then when I got, 8 weeks out for 4 weeks, I went ahead and just did a 4-hour exam, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. And then when I got the last 4 weeks out, I went ahead and did one in the morning, one in the afternoon for Saturday, Sunday. And I felt like when I got the test that I'd been through enough that I knew what to expect.
That's great. And you mentioned you used our CBT exam that was really close to that exam. So we try to, when people come through a course or courses, I try to tell them to reserve that maybe 3 weeks before the real exam, just so they can get like that last bit of real exposure. And the nice thing about it too is we can reset it for you. So, and do allow you to pause it so you can go take your hour walk and come back, whenever you want. So,
Yeah.
um, you hit on theory. You feel like theory was a huge part of the exam. And was it the same between the two exam attempts? Like you noticed the same amount, or was it different?
I had way more formulas the last time. Last time I'd say I probably had 70-30,
Hmm.
like 70% formulas. The other 30 was conceptual. This time around, I had a lot more conceptual.
Interesting.
So,
Well, yeah, we have 130 questions, and the point of that is like it's impossible to prepare everyone for all theory that can be thrown at you. They can pull it from anywhere and everywhere. But if we can give you like a feel for how they are generating questions and how you should be thinking, like that's the point. And so when you're going through your own practice, you can start thinking about how they're gonna, ask you questions so you can use your engineering judgment to solve those things. So,
yeah. And another big thing too is they'll ask a question in the back of your mind. You instantly start thinking, okay, from what they're asking, it's got to be here, and then you get a feel for it. But you got to work a lot of those problems in order to get that feel.
that is very true. I love asking this question, but walk us through the day you got your results on that second round when you actually got the pass. What was that like?
I told myself, because I remember last time you get on a Wednesday, I said, I'm not going to open up my email until it's 9 o'clock because I don't want to keep looking and make myself nerves. And I opened up, and last time I felt like you had to dig a little bit. Well, I hit on their email, boom, it popped up with a pass. And I tell you what, there's two things. So I text my wife and my daughter. They were the first two to find out. But my first job as a CAD tech, there was a guy who kind of took a chance on me. I had no civil engineering experience yet, decided to hire me over a couple other people. I think the interview just went well. So I went out and called him and made sure that he was one of the first in the civil engineering business that knew that I passed it. And it just meant a lot to me that he was willing to do that and give me that chance. So
Oh yeah, I think we all have these mentors that kind of gave us a chance or worked with us early in our careers, and um, it's good to stay in touch with them, let them know what you're doing. So,
and next, I told the other 5 people that gave me the references for the exam, and then I went around the office and told my boss and the head of transportation and my coworker. But I didn't tell anybody this time that I was taking it again because last time when I had to tell them I didn't pass it, I felt a little defeated that day. So when I was able to tell them that I passed, it really was a different feeling.
yeah, it's hard. A lot of engineers have this pressure that they put on themselves at work when they haven't gotten a passing score yet, and I feel for them. I'm a repeat taker myself. Eventually, you don't want to tell people how many times you've taken the exam. You just want to get it done. Um, so anyway, I'm excited for you. You got it done. You crossed the finish line. Like looking forward, what do you think that does for your career? I know you mentioned a few things at the beginning, but like, where do you see this puts you in the future?
Well, I mean, it definitely gives me an opportunity now if I want to be the head of a roadway department, if I wanted to one day, I've always thought, it'd be really interesting to be like a regional manager where you're able to do multiple, different, states, able to be the overseer of them. That would be, I had an old boss that at a firm I worked at before that he would come in and check in on the different states that he took care of, but he would always keep us in the loop of nationally what was going on. I always thought that was interesting. Over my time, I've been lucky enough to be able to work share. I've worked shared in Utah, Florida,
Wow.
Georgia. I mean, I've done all over. Virginia is another one. So I've had that ability, but I think it gives me different avenues that I wouldn't have without it.
Oh, that's so awesome. Um, yeah, the PE is the springboard, man, to opening doors and to like the rest of your career. It'll be a huge blessing in your life. So, congrats on passing. Is there any tips, secrets, anything else you would share with someone that came up to you and said, "Hey, I'm trying to pass this exam. What tips do you got for me?"
My number one tip is just be disciplined in your studying. And if you have an event coming up, like, a birthday party or, just anything, just work it into your schedule. Don't feel like this is the be all end all, like you got to study every minute, make it your whole life, because outside of engineering, you have to have a life. Like the question you asked about my family, yeah, I carved out that time, we had a date night, we'd watch our shows together, we'd catch up, with things like that. Definitely use your resources. I mean, Civil Engineer Academy is a great one. They've just revamped all of their different courses. I think you still have structures left, right?
It's the last one. Our goal is to have that done by the end of the year. But yeah, transportation, we just got out the door not too long ago. And yeah, that whole spec change, we're getting them all updated.
I mean, and you'd be amazed how many free resources are out there if you needed them, as extra study material. Like I said, you can go on YouTube, Civil Engineer Academy has them all. Another one local to me is Dr. Daniel Finley from NC State. He's got a lot of, free resources if you wanted them, He's more transportation. If you're taking transportation, that'd be a good one. PE Genius is another one that's got some free problems. So those would be ones I recommend.
Sounds great, man. Well, I'm excited for you. Thanks for jumping on, sharing your wisdom with us. I think you shared a lot of great tips with people preparing for their exams. So I guess if anyone had any questions, they wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
You can reach me on my email, bill.bollman, BOLLMAN at ice-eng.com.
Perfect. We're going to leave that. If people have questions, they could reach out to you. I think it's awesome. You took this 30 years into your career. It's awesome that you got it done and not really having like a civil engineering degree background. So there's just a lot of hurdles that you're able to overcome and get this massive achievement done. So thanks for finding us too. Thanks for finding Civil Engineering Academy. Appreciate you jumping on and sharing all this stuff.
I'm glad I did because I probably wouldn't have passed without you guys. So I do appreciate it.
Well, thank you for jumping.
You had a podcast the last time with a gentleman who I think he just passed, and he was like myself, where he was, had a lot of experience in the business and decided to take it. I think you had him maybe like 2-3 weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
Released it.
We have helped quite a few people that are well into their careers and they need to get this thing done, or whether it's like a personal achievement that they want to do anyway. Some people have been in their 60s that have gotten this done, and the on the opposite end of the scales, we've helped people get it done. And I think the earliest I helped was 1 month. We did a podcast with that one. He studied in a new area, new job, had nothing else going on, and was able to knock it out in a month. Yeah, his boss encouraged him to just go take it, but he found our course and he got it done. So yeah, everything in between. It's been fun for us. It's been fun to help people through Civil Engineering Academy get this thing done, and we're glad we played a small role in your efforts. So thanks, Bill, and thanks for jumping on and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, we'll talk to you later.
Have a good one.